Good evening, everyone. Welcome to NMP Talk Show. And this evening, we're hosting professionals. And as usual, I'm not alone. I'm with Figile, who's going to help me deal with the professionals. Seeing that I'm the unprofessional one on the show. Figile, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Noah. Welcome, everyone. Due to load shedding, you can see me, but you cannot see me. But anyways, we're happy that the show is going on because of you, Noah. Today, like you have said, we've got two professionals who are assisting us in actually having a conversation about marital regimes. What type of marital regimes are they? Why do you have to know the marital regimes, the type of marital regimes that you want to enter into? Please, everybody, help me welcome Piwe, Matlo, and Dorothy Mokale. As much as Dorothy is gonna be just here to a little bit host with us, if I may put it that way, because she said she
Welcome,
is not the
guys. Pure
specialist in the
Dorothy,
field.
welcome to the
But
show.
Piwe, welcome to the
We're happy
show.
to have you.
Thank you so much, Neo and Figile. Thanks for having
And
us.
is your camera off now? It was just on now. Mm, yeah,
I mean, it's understandable now whether the camera is off or on. We understand it's what's happening in
mm,
South Africa. It's load reduction, load shedding, whatever you can call it.
Yes, I'm
But
right here. I can hear
I
you
mean,
guys.
we are here. Piwe, can
awesome.
you hear us?
Please introduce yourself. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'll
Yes.
start.
Introduce
So
yourself
I am
before we can
Piwe
proceed further.
Matlo from Matlo is Attorneys. I am the founder, the director of the firm. I've been in the game for 5 years. So pretty much this is what I do. This is what I do.
Yes.
Wow,
Sir,
wow. Impressive. And Noah said I can assist him dealing with you. I think we both need assistance dealing with you. But hey, I mean, tell us then, why the industry first? Why law?
So I figured during my years at Verts that law covers so many fields. So in every field, there is some form of regulatory board, right? So it allowed me to
Mhm.
go into any field pretty much wherever I wanted to focus into, I could tap
Yeah.
into that. So IT has regulations. Everything has regulations pretty much.
It
Mhm.
does, it does.
So that's why.
Yes, yes. So tell us then, marital regimes.
Yes.
You have to put it in an understandable context, because we've got people who doesn't even know law. When I'm saying marital regimes, what is marital regimes? What the most understandable way to a normal person who didn't do law? What is marital
Okay.
regimes?
So pretty much that's perfectly fine. So if I captured the question correctly, so what are marital regimes, right? So
Mhm,
so
mhm.
when you are getting married, you pretty much find three types of regimes. I think the popular one that we all know is the in community of property. I think we're
Oh,
all
yes.
familiar with that. So pretty much
Yeah.
that one, it's a 50-50 sharing. It's a joint estate, right? So what that means, basically, um, we are both leaving behind our own separate estates. We are coming to be one as in a joint estate, right? I think that's the popular one that we all know.
Yeah.
And then the second one is the marriage out of community, but with accrual. So, so with that one, you pretty much, retain your separate. Oh, electricity is back.
Yes.
So with the
We can now put a voice to the face.
yes, you can see me clearly now.
Very clear.
Uh,
Yeah.
Great. So, with the one, okay, did I say with or without? Without, okay, let me just go without accrual. So,
Yeah.
pretty much you're coming in without, you're coming in the marriage, but you keep your separate estate.
Yeah.
So, if there is a dissolution of the marriage, you can leave as if nothing happened, pretty much. Right.
Yeah.
And then the last one would be with accrual. So with this one, you pretty come in with whatever that you have, and both parties can determine what is the calculated value at the beginning of the marriage that you're both coming in with. And then should the marriage be dissolved, then it will be quantified as to how much was made during the marriage. So what is going to be calculated is what accrued during the marriage. That is what will be shared in the marriage, pretty much. So I know a lot of people speak loosely of anti-ANC, anti-nuptial contracts. So that would fall into the one that we just spoke about,
Okay.
pretty much.
So
Yeah.
tell me, Piwe, you're talking
Yes.
about in community of property. I don't know if
Correct.
it's too early to be asking this question, but if one is getting married and then they marry in community of property, can they change that at a later stage?
Well, yes, that can be done.
Hmm.
So one would have to do an actual application in order to change the regime that you're in. But
Okay.
what I do know for sure is that one has to show good cause as to why you are now converting into a different marital regime.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
So it is possible.
it is
What
possible.
then
Yes.
what are the grounds that would give me that would say okay, it's fine, you can change?
Okay.
Oh,
Just from the top of my head, maybe Dorothy can come in and assist on this one.
yeah.
But with the good cause element, so there are certain regimes that if you had married typically in community, and then okay, let me just take it from basic in layman's terms. So
Yeah.
with regards to the grounds of changing, you have to show good cause, right?
Yeah.
So maybe you would submit things like you having entered into a business and you don't want to, have, if you should you incur any losses that could affect your spouse. So that would be a good reason why you would want to change from um, in community to another regime out of community, typically. Um, so those implications, as you would know, with regards to in community of property, there are certain assets that one cannot obtain without the consent of the other spouse, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if you want to buy property, you would require, or sell that property, you would require the consent of your spouse. It's not just something that you would do on your end without the consent of the other party. So that would be a good reason to show the court that you've started your own business, you're in a partnership, there are certain assets and liabilities that you would have to take on, and you don't want to affect your partner.
But
You
what
know,
if
it's so nice mentioning that. Sorry, Nero. I got lost, but it's so nice that you mentioning the part of you don't want your spouse to inherit the business liability. Would you say that's a good reason why people will think of marrying out of community of property? And how does the other marital regime, the out of community of property with accrual, how does it come into being then? Will it affect that person who wants to be in business?
No, definitely. So I would really strongly recommend that people see attorneys because marriage is a very big step. So obviously our circumstances are not the same. So, one would get the proper counsel, regarding your set of circumstances. So if you are in business, the in community of property is not a viable option. Because there's issues of in partnerships, there's liabilities, and in community, you're sharing both assets and liabilities. So, you would want to explore out of community without approval in those sort of circumstances.
It's a nice thing that you're putting it that way. I'll bring it to a lighter sense, because many people, when you say to your partner, I want us to get married out of community of property,
Mm.
they already thinking, oh, she wants to divorce me, or she
Yeah.
doesn't
Correct.
love me. I mean,
Correct.
I like what you just brought to light, that it's not because I don't love you, but I'm thinking of maybe I will be in business in the near future, or
Correct.
I'm already
Correct.
in business,
And
and I
Fila,
don't
just to
want our
add,
business to affect
with
the
regards to
family's
these
financial
regimes,
well-being.
people always think the worst that, oh, you're probably saying our marriage, will not last, or you're in it for the wrong reasons. But,
Yeah.
but, yeah, but there are other things that are quite serious that you need to think about. Also, death implicates, the regime that you're in. Some people don't have wills in place, so it becomes a bit of a problem in that eventuality of death. So it's not
Mhm,
just divorce that will be considered, but there are other issues like death or their wills
mhm,
in place. Yeah,
mhm,
so it's very
mhm.
important. I talk a lot, so I
Did
just
you
want.
mention anything about the customary marriage? Because we know that in South Africa, by default, if you are not married, you didn't sign an ANC, or automatically you will be married in community of property. And the customary marriage, how does it fit in? How do I end up sharing my estate with somebody else that I didn't even know?
That's a very good question. I was actually going into that one. So, previously, customary marriages were not recognized in South Africa, right?
Mhm,
So, with the coming of the recognition of customary marriages, it gave the same status as civil marriages. So, I really strongly urge people, just if there is what do they call them, lobola negotiations that are about to be undertaken, that's a
yeah,
very
yeah.
good time to have those kind of discussions regarding what happens, because previously people would have the customary marriage, the negotiations, and then wait for the big white wedding to be considered
Mhm,
as married. And that is not the position, because by virtue of the bride being handed over to the family, that's a marriage. The
mhm.
minute it's a celebration, that is a marriage. So it's very important to talk about these things
Yes.
during these negotiations, so that
During
you
courtship.
know that.
Should it be should it be during the negotiations or before you decide to get married? Because we want people to have clarity as to when do we start having a conversation, and that doesn't
No,
mean that there's no love involved.
Can I
When do
weigh
we
in there?
have this conversation?
Let me weigh in there. I think this discussion is better held when you start your courtship. Remember, you got your
Yep.
dating, you knowing this person, you're not sure if
Yes.
you're the right fit or not. The moment that you see, no, I think this person I can go far with them, then you start a new level of your relationship, which is your courtship. Now you start
Mhm,
talking about the future. Um,
mhm,
tell me if I'm wrong, Pee, but I think that is the time now you start talking about these contracts that we have, these regimes. If you want to marry in community or out of community, and like one thing that you said, that if you say you're marrying out of community, now it causes some friction, mistrust. That why do
Most
you,
of the time.
yeah, why do you want to marry out of community? Don't you love me anymore? Or don't you trust me? Do you think I'm going to walk out of this marriage with your half of the things that you brought in or that we just built together? So it's prudent that it's discussed during courtship, especially the beginning of the courtship, where things are not that hot that you can go back.
I like that no, because I think we always often find it really disappointing, if I may put it that way, because
Yeah,
during the courtship, we forget to discuss the most important things,
yeah,
like the type of marital regimes I want to enter into, you know, whether I want to have kids or not, whether I'm indebted or not, because you only get surprised a week after you got married.
She
Does
just
it,
can't.
does it,
I got what she was saying. Yes. So
yeah,
I would definitely agree with you, Neo, on this one. To have those uncomfortable conversation, and it may come across, as someone who has ulterior
ulterior
motives.
motives, yeah.
Um, Yes, but it's if you're going to spend the rest of your life with someone, it's a good place to start to have those uncomfortable conversations, because things happen along the way,
I think we
and
lost POA. Please
I am
bear with
back.
us.
I'm sorry, guys.
You are
This load shedding and network is not working for me today. Can you hear
yeah,
me?
very nice, loud and clear.
Because it says I need to restart the studio.
Really? But we can see you now.
Can you see me now? All right. No, that's fine.
Yeah,
Then I'll ignore it.
we lost
It looks like we've lost Pure
POA.
too.
Yeah.
Where were we?
Hi.
Hi,
Hi,
Dorothy.
Hi.
Thank
Dorothy.
you for chipping
Uh,
in. Come in. Tell us. What is it that you know about marital
Yo, we just
regimes?
worried about you.
no, sorry, I had a bit of problems in the background, so I had to clear those
Okay.
out. Um,
Are you also,
but I
are you
think
also experiencing load shedding?
Luckily, she's
no,
not.
we're not. Luckily, we're
Her
not.
load shedding is
Oh,
different from
okay.
ours.
But maybe you can see your friends.
Yes. No, I think Simpiwe gave a very nice summary of what the marital regimes
Mm,
are. And I think just to weigh in on that, it's definitely a hard conversation to have, but it's a necessary
yeah.
conversation
Mhm.
you must have prior to any wedding arrangements, any agreements with family, prior to any meetings, any discussions to be had in exchange in lobola ceremonies. It's a very necessary, hard topic that you must actually deal with as a couple. Um, and not just thinking of the now, thinking about the
Mm,
future. Well, how is this going to affect us as business people? How is this going to affect us as a family? How is this going to affect us externally as the
yeah.
family as well? Um, she mentioned the wills legally. How is it going to affect us? So there's many aspects in your life how your marital regime as two people will affect the different areas of
Mm,
your life. Um, And those are things that you need to consider. And I think it's so important to go and consult with an attorney or sit down and have the counseling sessions and then have the legal conversation, legal counseling. Get to
I like
understand
what you're
exactly what.
mentioning, Dorothy. That you need to get an expert in the field, because we tend to listen to what our friends are saying, what our families are saying, of which that doesn't really work for us. it won't affect them whenever it happens that we need the legal advice, or whenever we are already facing issues in the type of marital regime we're in. As Simpiwe actually mentioned that even death itself, contributes, the marital regime contributes to that as well. So we need to have the legal advice. But when do we get the legal advice involved?
So Simpiwe did say something about you can listen to friends and family and their life circumstances, but everybody has very
Yes.
different circumstances. Everyone has very different upbringings.
Yeah.
Everybody has different relationship challenges. Everyone has very different business challenges. So it's something you have to do way ahead, having both introspected and considered each other's circumstances and lifestyle, and way ahead of time you say, I actually think it's something you can initiate even in the dating phase. So not just the
When you've
the
already
very
planning, because you're already blinded by love. I mean,
not really blinded by love, but before that, even in the beginning, say, babe,
you
what
you
kind
want
of
to
marital
enter into.
regime would
Yes,
you
I agree
think?
with you.
What are your life plan? What are your long-term goals? What kind of industry do
Yes.
you want to get into? So if you're
Man,
someone who says, I'm happy to
man,
work
you
in
you
industry
you
under
you
an
be forward, eh? Don't you think so? And you
No,
first running like
now
you.
it's not forward. It's like the issue of discussing finances on a dating phase. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
crucial discussion that you need to have, because it's gonna affect both of
Mm,
you one way or the other.
Yeah.
I believe that when you are courting, it's with the intention of getting married one day, not tomorrow, but one day. I wanna invest my life, my love in somebody who is planning to get married in the near future, and it should be the person that we are on the same page with. We want to marry out of community of property and is comfortable with that. When we say we're going to pay lobola, we know exactly what's going to happen. Should anything happen to either one of us, whether I pass on during that phase of lobola, you know exactly where you're standing in. It's not about
mm.
being forward. Yes, some people will view it that way. I was just adding on what Dorothy is saying. But one thing I wanted to know,
But I
what constitutes of a customary marriage? Because we tend to, confuse such.
Okay. Do you want to take this one, Dorothy? Or okay, okay, okay.
oh, take it, take it,
So
take
pretty
it.
much, the requirements really, people who are both 18 and above. And then there's that element that both parties want to be married within the customary regime, right? And then the most important element is the celebration, the negotiation of the marriage between two families. The celebration pretty much feeds into the handing over of the bride into her new family. And yeah, so that would, because you do have, those instances where the guy comes in and he pays 50% and he doesn't come back again. So there's
Yeah.
those situations.
We wait until.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. So in those situations, the determining factor is whether, has there been some form of handing over to a new family? Because also, I mean, African customs are not homogeneous in South Africa. People do different things in different ways, right? What may be true for Zulu people may not be the same for Tswana people, so to speak. So those are
Yeah.
the requirements of a customary marriage.
Yeah. Okay, and then now we all African here. I think we understand this, that before we go to
Well,
Kwamuhle, to the
Don't
home affairs, we start with the lobola negotiations. Where does this form part? Is it part of the customary marriage? Or is it what is it? What can you
Okay.
put it? Say, let me just put in a scenario where he comes, pays lobola, there's negotiations. He has to come back and pay that 50% that's outstanding. And my family says, you're not going to go until he pays that 50%. And there's no much of a celebration, but we celebrate that he paid the 50%. What does that, or say something happens to either one of us, whether I pass on, what will we say? Are we married? Are we not married? What's happening?
That's a very good question, Figile. So the hence this whole homogeneous aspect comes to play because families have different ways. Some people you pay the 50%, but they still don't hand you over, right? So
Mhm.
customarily, according to your family, it's not a marriage as yet. So the unfortunate things of life, people die during these
Mhm.
processes that are not complete, right? So what I know to be true is that when you go to the Home Affairs office, in those instances, if you can bring at least two witnesses who were there in your lobola negotiations, so you can get that marriage certificate. To say that
Mhm.
you were married, right? So those are the things that come to play, which is it's I think we all remember that double HP incident. um yes,
Mhm.
so those were the very
Yeah.
difficult questions that the court had to answer, because the family was saying, she's not our wife, she's not our wife. So and they insisted on burying
Mm.
WHP the way that they did, right? And the court clarified those requirements that we just spoke about just earlier. He said
Mhm.
she is the wife of WHP. So those are the issues that have to be very clear with regards to customary marriages. Um, yeah, because
Mhm.
people go to Home Affairs, and sign to legitimize, so to speak. But if you've met those requirements, you are married.
Okay,
So,
that's a relief.
uh, can I, can I jump in, Figile?
Huh?
Piwe, Piwe, my question to you is, um, would you, as a lawyer, recommend the type of contract that a couple should go for?
Within those regimes, okay,
Yeah.
look, I really would advise out of community without approval.
Okay.
Um, Look, I think the circumstances of people differ, right? If you are a stay-at-home mom,
Yeah.
it would be advisable for you probably to go in community of property, right? Um, for security, your children, death, those kind of issues should they come about. But if you have inheritance, say you have been given a penthouse in Santon by your parents, I don't think it's something you'd want to share with somebody else, right?
Why not? You approach the person you love. Why don't
And
you
and
share with
and
them?
I hear what you say.
What is mine is mine.
You don't know.
Hey,
I
what
hear
happened to
what
you?
you are asking as well. I'm not a lawyer, but I hear what you are asking. I know of parents who makes a clause to say for you to inherit that penthouse that's in the will. You should be, if you are married, it should be out of community of property, because I mean I'm working hard for you, not for the next
Right.
person. And we cannot shy away from the debt the other party brings in the family, whether male or female. We cannot shy away from that. So what should that happen? You want to lose that penthouse you inherited from your parents, whereas it was gonna help both of you to have a roof over
Mm.
your head while the business went haywire. So yes, the circumstances may differ, not because you don't want to share whatever you've got with your partner, but because you are protecting the legacy of your family. I'm just chipping in. You can add on what you can correct me. I stand to be corrected. I'm not a specialist in the field,
No, you're
but
correct.
I mean that's what I will
You're
say.
correct, Figile. And it's nice when we are courting and people don't see that people fight, and it's inevitable. People fight, and some people don't survive certain fights, right? And in those circumstances, you might have to part with some of the things that have been inherited. And it's rather unfortunate. We see it play out so many times. Sorry, so it's very sad.
I agree.
Yeah.
Let's get to the say now a scenario again. I am married now in community of property because I didn't know what the in and out of community of property means. Now I'm starting a business, that's gonna take out about say 1 million on liabilities, and now I want to fix it. Is it possible to do that?
Yes, that's possible to do it. So you would have to have Dorothy do your application in High Court to convert that marriage for you. We draft your papers, and then Dorothy will go and convince the the judge that there is good cause shown. These are the amount of assets and liabilities that will be affected. So you'd rather change to another regime.
But why do you need a lawyer for this? Where was the lawyer when you getting married? Sorry, sorry, I don't mean to take food out of your mouth.
Unfortunately,
But,
now in South Africa, everything requires a
Correct.
lawyer.
I think the only two things that you need a doctor and a lawyer. That's all.
No, there's a third one. You need a
I knew
finance
you were going there,
specialist in your life
but
as well.
how do I need money to someone to come there?
you also need a cameraman.
Exactly, to capture those moments.
Yes,
I want to be in the video.
I mean, this is very crucial, Piwe, what you are saying today, because most of the time people went into or entered into this marriages without knowing
Unknown.
how it's gonna affect them. Where should we? You mentioned that we have to get a Dorothy to convince the
yes,
judge.
yes, yes. Do you want me to elaborate more on this one?
Yes, please.
I think you should. So, you don't just go and contact Dorothy. You actually need to go through an attorney. So you'd need to actually go
Or
through
you start
Piwe as the first
you
point of
start from
call.
Piwe, you tell her, and then Piwe has to tell a Dorothy, and then a Dorothy will have to convince a judge.
Correct.
So
What a process!
Right.
you actually have to go. So it really is, it's so important because, and that's why we have to stress that this is something you do prior. You actually discuss these things prior to
Yeah.
getting into the
Yeah.
agreements. Because changing and converting at court is not a simple process. It's a time consuming and costly factor. So you actually need to first consult with PO. PO will give you the guidelines as to what you need to tell, what you need to do to show good cause. She'll draft the papers, she'll contact me, and we'll consult together, and then we'll make the application at court. So it's as much as it is possible, it's obviously a cost that you don't want to incur unless you have to. Um, and that's why we stress that these are things that you must consider before you enter into the marriage.
Yeah.
These are things that you must go see an attorney before you go and do the lobola negotiations. It's crucial.
Yeah,
So
you know, now that you are saying about the costs, I mean, I didn't know that getting married in community of property will require this much, you know, and then now I realize that my business is actually um gonna be
in,
affected with the
mm,
way I conduct my business. Whether I want to acquire an asset, I have to go and ask my spouse. Whether I want to sell, whether I want to borrow, I still have to consult. And I mean, it's not a business that is standing on my own. But now it is possible, but it is very costly to do it.
okay, let's clarify that. Let's clarify that again. So you married in community of property.
Yes.
Let's take me for instance.
Mm-hmm.
I have a business running,
Mm-hmm.
and we married in
Mhm.
community of property.
Mm-hmm.
So are you saying that for me to transact whatever is needed for the business, I need to consult my wife, who's not even a director in the business?
The type of business, the entity. So some people are sole proprietors. So the implication of that is that there's no difference between you and your business. It's one, recognition legally. A partnership really has implications. It's no different from you as a person. So your PTYs, they do have their own legal personalities, um, but that gives a bit of room in terms of safeguarding the assets and liabilities, depending on the entity that you are starting up. All right. So that definitely impacts certain decisions that you will take on.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I want us to go back to the very interesting part that happens a lot in South Africa. So I'm currently doing a wheel drive where I'm at in the darkness, and I find most of the people they were married.
I thought I thought you were on vacation, Fikile.
It's a bit of both. No, you know, a vacation has to go with work. Where will their money come from? So
No, this one I thought you inherited an inherit.
no, no,
What is
oh
that?
no, not yet. My parents are still
Inheritance.
both alive.
Uh,
So I wanted to ask this one. You find that they married. There was the lobola negotiations, and the partner decides that, you know what, I've had it with this one. I'm leaving. After the lobola negotiations, maybe they were staying together already, and midway decides that I'm leaving, and he leaves, starts a new life. What will the next person do? The person who already guided assets or built an estate in the family, will that spouse who left come back and claim? That is in the event of the spouse passing. Will they have the legal right to come and claim on their estate?
all right, all right. So this is a very good question, right?
Yes.
So in these kind of circumstances, people take it for granted that in those facts that they are married. So, midway, they just leave things as they are and they don't come back and claim. But it can come back and bite you because it is a valid marriage that hasn't dissolved. So,
Yeah.
you have instances where our people, they've been married for X amount of years and the other partner just leaves things as they are and then they're separated. But
Mhm.
legally, on paper,
They're still
you are
married.
married.
Hmm.
Married. So I can be separated away from you for X amount of years. But when you die, I can come back and claim. I have every right in law to claim. And separation doesn't mean anything, right?
Wow.
That's the very sad part. Now, this person, because
Yeah.
it forms part of the customary marriage that says the partner can marry another wife. So the partner, maybe it's a husband who left you with the kids and started a new family out there. So they both have a right
Yes.
to come back and claim from my estate when I pass.
Correct,
Oh,
correct, correct.
That is
oh.
not.
So the genius, I guess people prefer the civil marriage aspect of things because you cannot get more than one
Wife.
spouse in a civil union. Whereas in customary marriages, you can take up another wife, but obviously there has to be consent from the first wife, depending on how your custom in that particular Zulu culture, Tswana culture, things are done. But customarily, it's nothing new under the sun when someone takes another wife.
Yeah.
And
Does it
but
matter
in
how the
civil
wife came about? Will the husband claim that, you know what, I married her customarily and I am allowed to take a second, third wife?
Yeah, so there's an interesting case on that, but this was focusing on Tsonga culture, so to speak, where this lady was saying that, look, I did not consent to you taking up a second wife, and that particular marriage was declared null and void.
Mhm.
So it the customs within that particular religion, not sorry, culture,
Culture.
sorry, so to speak,
Hmm.
will dictate as to, um, did you consent? Is consent required?
Hmm.
Can he take up another wife without you agreeing with it, so to speak, right? So the thing is that customary is very interesting because there's not a lot of litigation, so to speak, around it. More and more people are coming in to challenge a lot of the positions regarding customary in more recent times. So that's pretty much that.
Yeah. On that one, you are talking about the partner being alive to speak uh for herself. Now, let's say, for instance, the partner passed
Hmm.
and she is
Um,
no longer there to say, I didn't consent for him to take a
Yeah.
second wife, but he managed to take a second wife, and now he is here to claim on my estate.
so this is where we come in, where you need us, lawyers. So, a lot of gray areas, you would have to prove them in court if there's a whole battle regarding the estate in question, right?
Yeah.
So, in proving your position, you would have to give me all that information, and I would have to draft your papers to put your position as to what has happened with this particular estate,
Yeah.
and yeah, and what needs to happen. So it's one of those gray areas where it's not a clear cut answer. It has to be put before a presiding officer to make that determination regarding your estate. So I really urge people, whilst they're still alive, they are able to, iron out these issues.
To
I
write.
think that
Mm.
another contentious issue currently is these universal partnerships. You see people within those fat and set situations, as we call them, and and it's very difficult, right?
Hmm.
But the law makes provision for also those kind of circumstances where you can actually go get a contract to legitimize your partnership with the person that you're living with, though you're not married. You probably have children with that person.
Uh-huh.
So that's another viable option of safeguarding, families coming and saying you were not married, you were this, that,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the other.
Because it's the family that comes in. It can never be the next person. So now going
Yes.
back to that scenario I put, what will you say? Would you think that um let's just say this person wants to fix this? My partner left me with kids and I raised these children. He left, started another family, but I'm still alive. What is it that I need to do to protect my estate?
The best way is to dissolve the marriage,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the best way to dissolve it.
So
So
dissolving a customary
And
marriage, we know that it
how
can
will
never
a
be
will,
dissolved. How do you do that?
Figile,
Yes.
so okay.
how would a will come into play in this instance? Will it have any effect
A
having a will?
will does.
Would
I mean,
Let
let's
me
speak to the
see.
lawyer. Lawyer, what will you say?
No, it definitely does have an impact. So, as we were speaking about this in community regime,
Mhm,
so the default, the dissolution or death, it's a 50-50 issue.
mhm.
Then your 50%, you can dictate as to
What you
what
want to
goes
happen?
where and
Mhm,
how, correct.
mhm.
Mm.
But if you die without a will, you've got a big problem on your hands
Yeah.
because interstate succession tells us that the two parties, we divide that 50-50, and then within that other 50%, if there are children, there's going to be the child share, right? So the wife also, or the surviving spouse, is also entitled to that child share. So they pretty much get 2/3 and not 50, if you think about it. Yes, because they get the child share and they are 50%. Yes. So
Educate.
it's very
Sure.
important
So,
um,
Piwe,
to
one
have
other question from my side. You might have touched on it.
correct.
Maybe it just went over my head. What is antenuptial contract? What is the difference between antenuptial and
Yes,
out of community?
definitely. Okay, so anti-nuptial contracts, it falls under out of community without accrual, right? So this is where you would go to a notary to draft that contract for you to say this is how you know this union will be administered should there be a dissolution or sharing of assets. So in that contract you pretty much dictate the terms as to what goes where and how, so to speak. um so that's a ANC, pretty much anti-natural contract,
Okay.
if that
I
clarifies.
think it does clarify for our listeners.
Yes, yes.
So, you being so versed in these matters, um, what would be your choice of contract? I don't want to put you on the spot.
Well, considering the fact that I'm running my own firm, I want nothing to do with an in community.
For the good reason
uh,
that you don't want
And
to get any
let's
trouble.
clarify this one, Piwe. Not because you don't love your spouse or you don't want your spouse to get a share on your
no,
profits, but you are
no.
protecting your spouse not to inherit any debt that will come with the firm.
with the firm, correct. But also, it I think as things are changing, so one really, if you really want to get into in community, really consult your attorneys. This is just me. I don't want to get in community, but consulting, getting proper advice that fits your set of circumstances, because my circumstances may vary to feel his position.
Mhm,
So it's incredibly important to speak to an attorney who can give you proper counsel
mhm,
on which regime fits your set of
mhm, mhm.
circumstances.
Hey, that's the sound I don't like. It means we are out of time while we still had so much to discuss. But in
Thank you so
closing,
much, guys.
Piwe, what is it
Yeah.
that you'd like to say?
I would like to say that with regards to this topic, if you are in a fat and set,
Yes, fat
that's how
and
we call
set.
them, yeah, cohabiting, those cohabiting circumstances, please, please, please have that universal partnership drafted, just to safeguard your position or your children's position. If you're getting some kind of maintenance that can safeguard your interests, please do that. And then before any lobola conversations can begin, have those uncomfortable chats. It's very
Thank you
important.
Thank you
very
for the
much, Piwe.
advice. Dorothy, would you like to chip in there your last words?
Sorry, I'll be very brief. I think everything that Simpiwe said is literally the essentials of what you need to do. Consult with your attorney, have the discussions, and just exercise all the rights that you have before you get into
Okay.
these
So,
kinds of
so can we
agreements.
advise people to go to PUA first before they come to uni?
Oh no, you
Uh,
actually cannot come to
everyone,
me. You actually do have to go to
please
her
contact.
first.
Yeah,
You will,
PUA.
Piwe will refer them
PUA,
to you.
would you
We'll
like to
bring
share
them to
your
your
website or maybe your contact where if anyone would like to share? Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
would like to
so
see. Yes.
my firm is Matlo S Attorneys. We are based in Centurion in the Reeds. I will leave my contact number. It's 07 6 That's my cell
Okay,
number. Whatever
let's
you
go
need,
again.
that's where
Oh
you will
seven
get me.
six. Yeah.
10
Yeah.
40
Okay. 6.
206.
Man, you have so many zeros. I think
Correct. No.
I was about
you're
to say
telling us
that
something
number
here.
seems so invalid to me because there's so many zeros.
Yeah, that's my number.
All right.
Yeah,
So this we will be speaking to you directly, Piwe, or you will refer us to your PA
directly.
who will tell us
No,
that
no,
you
no.
are
You'll
on
be speaking to
lunch.
me directly.
All right. So
Okay,
we'll share
thank
the
you. We
number on
appreciate
the
that.
screen below on our recording so that you can contact them. And thank you so much for joining us this evening, Figile. I know you've done a lot of talking on the show this evening, but I'm gonna give you
Yeah,
one
today
second.
it was like it's my show
I'm
now.
giving you one second.
I'll give you the final word. You can close for us
No, no, no.
today.
I'm giving you a chance to give a last minute and then we close.
I always do this. But hey, Dorothy and Piwet, thank you very much for joining us. I think you've shed so much light in terms of the marital regimes that one can enter into, and that it is crucial to have that uncomfortable conversations during the dating stage before you even start courting. It's not that you are too forward. It's that you are protecting yourself, you are protecting the next person. You do join us on our next talk show. Noah, what will we be talking about
All
next week?
right. We'll be sharing that one very soon. We're going to have a doctor on the show, so be on the lookout for the topic. We're just finalizing final details with her. And we're looking forward to your comments, to joining us and sharing your experiences as well. Maybe if I can, for a, for a taste to whet your appetite, we'll be talking about something to do
Mhm.
with your skin. So, ladies, this will be a show for you. I promise you, this you're going to like. But we'll share more details as the time goes. So, Piwa, thank you so much for joining us. Dorothy, also, as a second comeback, thank you for joining us. We're looking forward to having you more on these shows so that we can expand on the legalities. So, until next time, you tune into NMP Talk Show. I'm Neo Morabedi. I'm with my co-host Fugile Nkosi, and this is how we're signing out from our show. Are you ready, Ivane? Are you ready, Fuzzy?
Thank you,